I've had more growth in 18 months working with the guys than I had in 7 years. And in fact, probably in 12 months of working. Yeah. My name's Jake White. I own My Body Fit personal training in Solihull. We are a small group personal training facility designed for sort of busy professionals who want support in their training, nutrition and accountability. Prior to joining, there were loads of issues. One, because I was always coaching clients, I had no time to spend to upskill the team. So from a growth perspective, I didn't know how to grow. I didn't know how to grow them. There was a span on what I could charge to a point, and I just had no time to spend anywhere else in the business. So it meant that we sort of stayed at the same spot. We sort of went to a place and we went down. I think I had a guilt around not being able to upskill the team because I never had the time to do so. On the other perspective, I felt like some of my one-to-one sessions weren't as good as they should have been because my head was sometimes in the business, and it was like this spiraling issue that I just didn't know where to go. I was exhausted. I was always tired. I'm going on holiday to Dubai. I slept like the first 3 days. We were only there for 6. I never saw family members, wasn't spending enough time at home. And yeah, it was just, I was a bit fed up. Didn't have any, I was like, what's next? Been on the March on Perform program for about 18 months and loved it. I was in Dublin and I just said hello to Ollie and just said how much I love it. Just asked him a couple of questions. Within about 20 seconds, he'd sort of thrown me into two parts of the business and kind of summed it up pretty quickly. And it was clear that, you know, he's done this before. It's not the first rodeo. Before I knew it, about 4 or 5 days later, I was on the phone to Jens, walking around the gym with my iPad, and it was just really clear that they were operating on such a different level that it was like an absolute whirlwind, and I needed to be a part of it. I think the initial conversation I had with Ollie and then followed on with Jens was about staff. I had self-employed trainers, which I thought I was giving them a great service, etc. They quickly outlined the fact that if you change things, you'll see so much more. And it was so true. Got a brilliant team who are fully committed and just support me in pushing things forward every day. The biggest one was employing the team from that self-employed status. I think it's been a game changer for them, and I've had conversations around that with them as well as for me, and we are 1,000 times better business for it. And then it was we moved very quickly from one-to-one to small group personal training, moving it over to it now, and looking back 18 months later, the community we built, the client results we've got, actually we're giving them way better service now than we ever were as a one-to-one business. And that makes me pretty proud. The business side of things, just a whole different world. Turnovers, I think 3 times as much. I understand what a KPI is. And I think we run so smoothly compared to what we did. I have time on the business, I have dedicated days to it, which includes like staff one-to-ones, etc. All the things that I maybe was ignoring and not realizing the importance behind it beforehand and just delivering session after session. Yeah, that support network around that. If you have a problem or you come through something, it's going to be on the call, or it's going to be at boardroom, or there's going to be someone in the room that you can speak to around that suddenly your speed is just rolling and rolling, which is great. Since being with the Gym Owner Network, I think there's been a lot of changes in the gym. I think our culture's always been really, really good. The structure, I think there was a lot of it that we were winging. And where now, I think each member in the team has set areas of the business that they're in charge of and KPIs to back that up. So from my perspective, it's a lot easier to manage them. From their perspective, the feedback from them is they've got a real key thing to work on, if that makes sense, and to drive forward. And there's also that transparency as they know how I measure it, or we measure it together. So I think from the back end of the business, it's just been an absolute game changer in the way that we manage our time, the way that we structure the week with things like adding in things like CPD and like weekly team meetings, one-to-ones, all these things where before they were ad hoc and they were unstructured, where now we know where we're at each week, we know what we're working on each quarter, and what we're trying to shoot for by the end of the year, which I think there's that true clarity, which they've hugely helped with. We are over double the members. I think we're triple the income now from a turnover perspective. I've got a massive understanding around what should be where and percentages, etc., which I didn't have before. I didn't even know what I was shooting for. I was just sort of hit and hope. So from that standpoint, it's created a life outside of here, which, you know, we're in March. I've been on 3 holidays already this year, which is pretty cool. I've been able to save more and put more money back into the gym, you know, constantly putting kit in. And from a perspective of within the business, we've been able to recruit another full-time member of staff, going through the interview process for someone else as well. It's not just the money. I think the time I've got back, you know, I was some weeks delivering 40 plus hours of PT, where now, you know, I have 3 days a week where I'm not coaching. I know a lot of gym owners' goal is to come off the gym floor. For me, that wasn't the case, and a good day when I'm not in front of my laptop. But the fact that we've managed to, the team have got areas so that I do get to still coach, etc., has meant I've got like a business I love. Like it's awesome. They've sort of helped me build a business that I absolutely love. So since joining the network, mindset has just absolutely shot up. I think what I used to think would be successful, we passed 3 months ago. So, and we're nowhere near done. And I think that's quite cool, it's quite exciting. It makes me think bigger, it makes the team think bigger. And and our members as well, actually. Our members seem to be really supportive around that. Whenever we have new members in, etc., they're very supportive, which is amazing. From my perspective, it's constantly where we go next. Must be exhausting for the team, but I quite like it. And then I think from a leadership perspective, I've become a lot more structured. I think before I was quite, I think Jen's would call it emotional baby. I was quite emotional, and I would shoot from the heart. And I think now there's a lot more data behind it, which initially the idea of that, I was like, that's not me, but it's been so helpful, and actually probably one of the biggest game changers in the last 6 months, that we grow and manage the business through the data, and you know, it doesn't lie. So then bringing that structure in and has been really supportive on how I manage the team. Yeah, I think the moment things started to change was probably about 6 months in, if I'm honest. And when we first started, it was just so fast. We were changing one-to-one, we were employing the team, we were doing all these things. We were knocking through the walls to go expand the gym, and I think it was just crazy. And I remember it starting to dip, and almost like me missing the chaos. And I think I was just sat at the desk once, looking back. There were a couple of sessions running at the same time, and I was just like, this actually looks pretty good. We almost looks like we know what we're doing. And I think I've had many moments since then that we sort of reach little points, and I look back and go, wow. From the off, when I started, both meeting Jens and Ollie, I trusted them. I'd been a part of, you know, using the March on training program for a while, and following them, and I had every trust that they were the right people. But I think it's doing it in your way, and making sure it's authentic, and then you look after your members. And I had a lot of, like when we were changing over, I had a lot of calls. I you know, finished at 8, I've got about a 25-minute drive home, and I would be phoning members going, it's gonna be okay, just try it, or this, that, and the other. And it was a pretty hectic period for about, I think it was like 5-6 weeks before we changed over since joining the network. And then it started to work, and members started to like it. And I remember we sat just over there, and one of our clients sat outside, and I walked out, and she was like, this is really good. And she was someone that I'd spoken to like 3 or 4 times, because she was really worried about changing over to a small group. So I think it was probably about 3 months in where I was like, this is gonna work. And it wasn't that long after I went to a boardroom, and I arrived early having some breakfast, and Ollie and Jens walked in, and they were like, how's it going? And I was like, yeah, pretty good, I think. I think the biggest thing is, whatever struggle you're having, wherever you're at, they've probably been there, or someone in the room's been there. And I think it's so much better to go through it when you've got support around, having someone to have your questions answered, or just that conversation of, I've been there, it gets better. or I've been there and this is what you need to do, and I think that's invaluable. I was at Boardroom recently and there's a chap who just joined who was in a very similar scenario to me. He was about to, I think they call it the Lion's Den or Dragon's, and just about to go down that route of changing over from small group to one-to-one and employing his team. Hopefully I just gave him some reassurance that it's worth it. Being that room, all that they provide, so many things, so many tools. Just being in that room once every 12 weeks, it's worth the membership, 100%. Like what I get out of that is I leave my team are terrified. It's usually on a Thursday. I come back on a Friday and they're like, oh God, what's the, because I get so excited. I get so many things. I'm like, I can do so much better. But I think for me, it's be part of a network that's going places. And also I think, you look at the March On guys with Ollie and Jensen, they've done it. They've got how many gyms and an amazing brand. And I think they're pretty supportive, well, very supportive as well. It's just a bit of a no-brainer. I'm very pleased I did it. Probably the best decision I've made in 9 years of business, if I'm honest. Do what they told me to do 18 months ago. I think going into the small group and bringing the team in as full-time employees is just the two best things I've ever done with regards to the business. Like with the small group, there's just so much community. I think you can provide that one-to-one almost service, but in a small group environment. And I think we've got much better at that. I think when we started, that was a challenge. Now I would say our retention is under 2% at the moment, and that shows that obviously we're delivering a product that's they think's worth it and valuable. I think that would be number one, start with a small group. Number two would be employ the team. I think the value you get back from them, if you recruit the right people, obviously, is just awesome. And rather than one person, there's 5 of us all flying the My Body Fit flag and trying to improve the business and look after members, etc. And as you grow as a business owner, sometimes, especially as you start to have more and more members, it's challenging to get around 200 people. So having 5 of you, looking after each one is an absolute winner. I think that shows that they're getting looked after and supported, and that's small gyms like us that's what we're about. We're about that community, that support, and individualising as much as we can so that they get into their goal. Not waiting so long to do it. I was watching I'd been on the Gym Owner Network website probably about 10 times before I spoke to Ollie in Dublin, and should have pulled the trigger a year before, to be honest.